Hi, Sarah.
Hello, Miss Lane. How's it going today?
It's going. It's going.
That is the theme of 2026. It's going.
Yup, living the dream, as they say.
Every day since April, whatever, 2023, when I sold Head Heart Therapy, I thank my lucky stars that someone in my spirit guide team was like, you need to get out of here ASAP, because I don't know that I would have been able to tolerate being a practice owner and the way that the world is just being right now, truthfully.
Yeah, totally. The waters are rocky. That would be a lot to hold at this moment in time,
Yeah.
for
Well, and
sure.
you're working with a lot of practice owners, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
you're hearing all this from me, of course, but I'm solo now. Like, what are you hearing from other practice owners?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been full of tribulations. I think I'm kind of in a position where I'm helping everyone, just keep on going and hopefully getting through to see a better side and the other side,
I believe
and
that.
yeah, I believe that too. Yeah, there's definitely been, I think, a lot of fear, just like in the present, but
Right.
also like looking into the future. I think a lot of folks that I'm working with are feeling nervous about what's to come, and trying to
Yeah.
anticipate that and make
Yep.
sure that they can continue running successful practices.
Yeah. And I know that several of them are already members of Group Practice Revolution, but this is a good invitation for what I'm really trying to do at Group Practice Revolution is help people have a felt experience of what we can build together. Because in all the episodes that I've talked about with people around leadership and group practice and all that sort of stuff, we're really recognizing that the old paradigms and the way that we've done practice before with a very top down hierarchical model and very it's not that private practice or group practices are corporate, but it's just very much modeled on how businesses have always worked, and I really think that that's just not the way we're gonna work moving forward, and I don't have all of the predictions about where we're gonna go, but I know the values that we're gonna build these practices on, and that's the felt experience that I want people to have in Group Practice Revolution, that, here we're centering compassion and curiosity and authenticity, right? Like, all of these things that I know every single therapist wants in their own practice with their clients. Why can't we build organizations that are revolving around that too?
Yeah, absolutely. That reminds me, there was a time or a moment in this episode where Alicia says that, in her opinion, the best practice owners are the ones who are getting creative in how they run their practice.
Yes.
And I think that really relates to the work that you're doing, with Group Practice Revolution, of just kind of acknowledging the fact that practice owners have inherited these systems in their business
Right.
and organizations that might not, or definitely don't, work as well as they could. They're not optimized, I think, for the work that a lot of therapists are
Right.
doing. Yeah, yeah, and it's out of alignment, I think, with a lot of therapists. So, yeah, getting creative to find solutions and ways of being in group practice and in positions of leadership in group practice, that feel more aligned, I think. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I love, Alicia and I initially bonded because she had posted something on Instagram and was like, "Why don't we have trainings that are about how the world is burning right now and how we survive through that?" And I was like, I have one. Because my beautiful friend Michelle Winston and I have a training. It is available actually. We'll make sure we have this in the show notes. It's called Care and Chaos. And so we did a training, and I talked a lot about doing our own work and how quote unquote pathological empathy can be a barrier for us being able to like be okay in these times right now. And my dear friend Mashera had like so many beautiful nuggets of wisdom for like patterns that therapists can be looking out for. And truthfully, I think when we did this, it was a little like before people were ready for it. So
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, it is available right now. So I'll make sure that everybody can get the link to Care and Chaos. But so anyway, so I said to Alicia, like, "Oh, I actually have this," and she was like, "Oh, that's amazing." And we talked about what we see on the Facebook groups and how disappointed we are in the way that a lot of therapists seem to let fear be driving the conversations. And so, yeah, I love that in this episode we get into sort of the red flags and the like green flags around like what to look for if you're an
Mhm.
employee. And I really both want employees to hear this and know that there are people out there like me and like Alicia who are really advocating for them. And I really want group practice owners to hear this and think about a real audit of your system. Like how are you making sure that you are actually in embodied alignment with the values that are on your website rather than just saying like, "Oh, we live in
Mm.
abundance." No, but what does that really mean in practice? It means you don't have non-competes. It means you let people take their clients, right? Like all of these things that it means. And this is really making me think I need to come up with a document that's like audit your practice from a group practice revolution
Ooh.
perspective. So I'm going to have to hang out with ChatGPT after this and figure out how to do that.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. Yeah, I will also say as someone who is flirting with the idea of entering the field and becoming a
Oh,
therapist,
you're more than flirting.
um
You're making out at this point. Come on.
yeah, you know what? You're right. I was being shy, but yes. Yeah. You're right. Yeah, I just feel really grateful for episodes like this, seriously, because
Yeah.
I think knowledge is power wherever you are and whatever you're doing, and, I feel lucky that I get to, yeah, kind of hear about the green and red flags before
Yeah.
I find myself in a situation that maybe is a red flag. Like, this just feels like
Right.
a nice, gentle heads up. Yeah.
Amazing. So, Alicia Murray, LMHCD, based out of Syracuse, New York, is a group practice owner and consultant for therapists going into private practice in Therapist HQ. In between sessions, you can find her binging TLC shows, spending time with her husband and two young kiddos, or hitting up her favorite coffee shops and ice cream stands. So please enjoy this amazing conversation with Alicia Murray. Hello, Alicia. Welcome to Group Practice Revolution.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for being here. We've already had a ton of laughs
Yes,
since you
yes, we have.
joined me online. But yeah, how are you doing today? For listeners to know.
We are doing, our pre-podcast banter was basically about the state of the world, so people can just imagine how that conversation unfolded. So I would say I'm doing as well as other people in our situation.
Right? The horrors persist, but so do
They do.
we.
They do,
Yeah.
and we do.
Yeah, every morning I wake up and I have this news app, that it's not Apple News, it's Ground News, and it I don't there's this is not a promotion by any means, but I found it because it kinda gives you, like, the bent, if it's, like, a leftist sort of bent to it or to the right, and because I wanted to, like, diversify my news sources and all that sort of thing,
Yeah.
and, I mean, it's just, like, pages and pages of really bad shit, and I keep thinking, I in the moment, like, I'll tense up, and then I'll have to remind myself, like, "This is not your job to solve right now, like, just
Mhm.
notice that it's here and go meditate," and that's what I do every morning.
Yeah. Well, what a lovely app. Like, gotta love things like that that can help to keep us, somewhat grounded in
Right,
what we're reading and consuming. And, that separation of us and the news of the church and the state is, ever persisting.
right, right. Well, let's talk about group practice while you're
Yeah.
here. So, well,
Yes.
for I guess first, do you wanna introduce yourself to people and let them know what it is that you're doing in the world? Because 'Cause you're doing a lot,
Yes, we are doing the things. My favorite joke to make is that I have zero chill, like whatsoever. But it's been working thus far, so we love that.
right?
So I run a group practice virtually across New York State. It started as a solo practice in 2020. I started growing the group in 2021, and now I have six clinicians and two admin staff. And then last year, I started doing consulting for therapists going into private practice. So I have just suite of resources and guides. I have a community, all the things. I love helping therapists quit their jobs. I love helping therapists find that like alignment in, um, the work that we're doing and also their life outside of it, because I think that it just holds so much more sustainability in a field that already can very easily become unsustainable just because of the nature of the work that we're doing. And so, yeah, definitely like just two of my huge passions. Like the group practice is like my baby, and the consulting is just like a really like fun and empowering thing that I have really, really grown to love doing.
Mhm. And I just wanted to note, I could feel the buttholes of all the group practice owners of America clench when you said that you love to help people quit their jobs.
Well,
But let's talk about that
yeah.
because I mean, this is what group practice revolution is really about is creating sustainable workplaces that really work for everybody, and we don't have that right now. And I'm not sitting here pointing fingers at group practice owners, but we're the ones who have more power.
Mhm.
So let's talk about like why are you seeing people quit? Like what are you hearing?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting day for me to talk about this because I'm coming off the heels of two one-on-ones from yesterday, and one of them just quit her group and one of them is planning to quit her group. And the majority of people I work with are coming from community mental health, but I don't know why in the last like 6 months it's been these like random, like kind of yucky group practices that people have become associated with, and it feels like there's no way out. And for me, it's like, oh my gosh, it feels like we're talking about like community health 101, like we're at like an outpatient clinic, you're seeing 60 clients a week and making, a crazy low salary. And it's really disappointing, like as a group practice owner, because I'm like you said, like we have so much power and we are the decision makers. And are we so far removed that we're making these like really poor decisions and poor structures that are causing therapists to feel like they're too afraid to leave, or that if
Mm,
they leave, there's gonna be, like, pushback, there's gonna be threats, there's gonna be they'll never make it on their own because of all of this perceived, like, walls closing and feelings, like, it's really, like, a bizarre sort of phenomenon to me, um,
mm.
but I think there's 2 sides to the coin, right? I mean, we know that there's good group practices out there where people are definitely not looking to quit and actually flourish in. And then there's group practices that I don't know what happens from start to finish, but things just get unsustainable for the therapists inside.
Like, can you tell us any, like, tea about any of these stories?
Yeah, so I'll keep it vague, but
Yeah.
one group practice that I'm working with a therapist on making her exit from. She is a private pay model in this group practice, fully private pay, not touching insurance whatsoever. The fee is just below $200 per client. She is seeing 28 clients a week. She has a specialty that is um so needed and so like highly trained and skilled.
Mm,
And, I did the math for her and I'm like, 28 clients a week times this fee, you're going to be paying yourself after all of your expenses and taxes over $2,000 a week. And she was like a ghost. And she was like, I am not making anywhere near that amount. She also had two extra admin duties. She had a supervisory role, and then she also had another like outreach role, all wrapped up into this, like, hellishly low salary, which
wow.
I have, like, my own feelings about salaries and how it's a slippery slope to, like, exploiting employees, if it's not done correctly, um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let's talk about that next.
and and then there's, like, I mean, I don't wanna use the term cult, like, loosely, but, like,
Yeah.
feels like a cult because one thing she said was like, it feels like the group practice owner is like the sun, the moon, and the stars for private practice, like in our area. And I was like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna stop you right there. Like, that's a crazy thing to say. Like, there are so many circles of like private practice owners. There's so many communities and networks. And I just, it left me thinking for like the majority of the day on and off, like, how does someone position themselves like in their group practice in a way where people are afraid to quit because of
Mm.
retaliation and because they think their private practice isn't going to succeed because of whatever messaging they've received. And they think that they're already leaving with a tarnished reputation because the owner is the sun, the moon, and the stars. Like that was a new one for me.
I mean, that's just a misuse of power. Like the thing I did
Yeah.
this morning was our board meeting for the Right Use of Power
Mhm.
Institute, and
Oh.
was then talking with one of the other board members about other organizations that we've both been in that like don't have this recognition
Mhm.
of power, because it's like if you do enough of your personal work, or even if you don't, like honestly, if you
Mhm.
go into any sort of healing field, I think that there are a lot of people that are like, oh well, clearly I know what I'm talking about, and so like, I'm the shit and I don't have to think
Mhm.
about it, but, like, I see 2 sides of the coin, right? Because I clearly in this sort of example, the practice owner really enjoys a certain amount of power, right? Like being seen
Mhm.
in a certain light. I'm hearing a social Enneagram 3, is
Mhm.
what I'm thinking about from an Enneagram perspective, and and then, likes having this really good reputation, but then also I do wonder, because I have been hearing a lot on the employee side, and I want your feedback on this too. I just think a lot of therapists are not in touch with their own personal power, period. And so
Mhm.
when they are across from somebody who is, whether, malevolently or benevolently in touch with their power, they automatically shrink. We have to learn more about power in this field.
Yeah, and related to that and secondary to that, it's like, why are therapists so like we feed into our fear so much. Like the
Yes.
therapist that I work with so often, like our first couple sessions together is just like, get this brick of fear out of the way. Like, why are we I don't know if it's like a fear of failure, if it's a fear of like the business end of it, if it's a fear of like talking about like how great the services are that you offer and how needed they are, but this fear keeps people stuck in like these really insane situations.
Yeah, yeah. That's something I've been thinking about for a really long time, because I mean, ever since the Facebook group started to really proliferate and I got to see us as a group, right, in
Mhm.
these different spaces. And like you said, it's like this cumulative snowball of
Mhm.
fear that just keeps going. And whenever I work with newer leaders or whatever, all of it is about like, I mean, I'm guessing a lot of the fear comes from our own trauma histories and
Mhm.
being harmed by power and not being confident in ourselves, and so like I guess like from a NARM perspective, the way I would think about it is like what's good about the fear? Like what is the fear trying to tell you? And then like what part of that is real and what part of that is actually getting in the way of what you want for yourself?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree, and I think that at least from like the business side, I think finding like the benefits of their fear, it feels like in that moment because they're so in to this group practice, it's like this living, breathing orb around them every single day. It feels so hard to like separate out. And I think the same can go for community mental health. Like I can, it was a while ago, but I can still remember being in the groups of community mental health and feeling like, how am I ever going to replace my health insurance, replace my 401k, make a livable wage, like whatever it may be. But it just feels like the walls are closing in around you. And to see that like in somebody's eyes and like in somebody's nonverbal, it's really startling.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, when I was a group practice owner, obviously, as a group practice owner, you want to keep your business running. So
Mhm.
it's not a great business model that people leave. But I
Mhm.
remember when I finally recognized, like, oh, this is a life cycle. Like, this is
Mhm.
just part of one little step in the life cycle for every therapist. They're never going to stay in group practice forever, except for
Mhm.
my dear friend John Codd, who will never work for himself. He ruined me. And I've said this so many times on the podcast, so I'm not going to go into it again. But most people will leave.
Yeah.
And I always wanted, as a group practice owner, like, if we can do this collaboratively, then it doesn't hurt the business. I can help
Mhm.
you get your shit set up
Mhm.
so that you feel more confident starting your private practice and
Mhm.
like, take your clients because, of course, they want to go with you. And I've
Right.
never understood group practice owners that don't recognize that. I mean, that's just the truth.
Sarah, you would not believe the amount of people I work with that are like, "Well, I have a non-compete in place and they're threatening to sue me if I tell my clients where I'm going." I'm like, How did we get to a place where we think
Right.
we own clients?" And these are
Right.
therapists that like own these group practices that are
Right.
not only, I will give a pass if like they had a lawyer draw up their contract and they didn't read it, like not good business, but whatever. But then to like double down and be like, "Oh, and we will pursue if you take the clients." Like, and when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to hear like, well, they can't actually sue you. You can't actually because you're in it and you're like, the last thing I need is to be sued. Like I'm just trying to get my practice off the ground.
Hmm.
But it's really definitely a continuum of group practice owners and where they lie. And I love that you brought up like the life cycle. I remember when I was starting my practice, because I do 1099 therapists in my practice. I have since its inception. Every year, I'm like, maybe I'll move to W-2. And every year it just works for what we're doing. And I remember in the Facebook groups reading, nobody will stay longer than 6 months if they're 1099. Why would they stay? Why wouldn't they just go out on their own? And I've been doing group practice for 4 years now, and there are 2 therapists I've had for 4 years, and there's 2 therapists that I've had for 2.5 or 3 years. And I hope that they leave eventually and do their own. But I also know at least 1 or 2 of them, they're moms. They see clients early in the morning, late at night. We take care of referrals, we take care of billing. They see their clients, write their notes, and they get paid well after doing all that and after the fee splits and everything. And I wouldn't be surprised if they stuck around for the long term because it's something that works, but they feel supported and they feel autonomous and they feel like they do have that power to leave if and when they want to. They've seen others leave the practice fully supported. And I think even just like having that sense of I can get out of this if I want to, like really impacts like the employees long term, you know?
Yeah, yeah. And I just want to say for listeners in different areas of the country, because that's one of the things, the whole 1099 to W 2
Mm,
question right now. Like in Chicago, everyone has basically switched to W 2s just for
hmm.
protecting everybody because
Yeah.
there's a lot of shit out there. So I just want to say for anyone listening and thinking about doing 1099, just make sure that you go to the IRS website and read the 20
Hmm.
questions about like making sure that you're in compliance because otherwise you can get fucked.
Yeah. And read it
You
every year
and your
because they might
employees.
change it. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
Read it
So if
every
you're
year.
doing that, just yeah, you need to make sure that you're in compliance. Maybe your state doesn't let you do like we can't
Hmm.
have 1099s until they're fully licensed.
Hmm.
So like
Same.
in Illinois, yeah, if you're an LSW or an LPC, you can't be a 1099, but people still do that. It's just like
Mm,
it's like the Wild West because A, every
yeah.
state is different, and B, like people don't want to hear the truth of
Yeah.
what they can and can't do, which I mean, I guess
Yeah.
like that's kind of going back to this whole problem of like people living in scarcity or I don't want to think it's greed, but maybe I don't know.
I have come across some greedy practice owners. And there's a couple practice owners I've come across that like flaunt their wealth while paying their therapist like barely above poverty level. And I'm like, are we not connecting the dots here? It's very particular. It's just peculiar to me, on the
Yeah.
outside.
Well, and this is what you and I ended up chatting about originally, and we're going to try to develop a little webinar or something around this idea of like what how do we make it through this time right now,
Mhm.
right? And like the awareness that you need to have that it is shocking to me that in this day of our Lord 2025 people don't recognize that wealth disparity just makes you look like an asshole.
Oh my god, you could not have said that better. Literally makes you look like an asshole. Nobody's
Yeah.
impressed. We're disgusted.
We're disgusted, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's so much nuance around this too, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I do want to hear your thoughts on salary because you said you had some
Yeah.
interesting thoughts. Tell me that.
Well, so yeah, so I have I haven't seen a salaried therapist in a group practice paid fairly yet. I would love to see it. I would love to see it in the wild and know that it can be done and be done well. And you know what? I think this probably stretches across like just companies in general. Of course, like we're so immersed in the therapist field is kind of what we're only like seeing, feeling, and breathing. But I think that it's such a slippery slope to go from like a fee for service model to a salaried model
Mhm.
because the tasks start getting added. And I have found they get added slowly. So it doesn't feel like such a big impact at first. And then all of a sudden,
Mm.
these therapists are seeing 25 or 30 clients a week, plus an admin task here, plus a supervisory task here, plus managing this part of the practice here, plus doing blog posts here. And all of a sudden, we're in this 40, 45-hour a week gig for a company that's not ours. Like, you don't get a stake of the company because you're supervising all of the employees and running the blogs on the website every week. And you're not being compensated enough to even kind of like see the other side because you're just swimming. You're just like staying above water every single week. And so, I think that personally, it just gives me a bad taste in my mouth about salaried. Um, and I totally recognize the other part of it too, where I've seen therapists who are in W-2 positions be like, I just wish I could be salaried so that I could have like a predictable stream of income because the fee for service is really hard with cancellations and reschedules and summer ebbs and flows. And then I've seen practices that do like a base and then a fee for service on top of it. Like I think the good private practice owners are the ones who are allow themselves to be really creative in the way that they operate day to day and the way that they do pay and the way that they structure the fees and the payouts. Insurance brings like another layer to that. If you're in network, when do the insurance
Mhm.
payments come in? And then that adds more unpredictability to your paycheck. Um, and so long story long, salary is it's just it needs to be executed well, and I think that it's been few and far between that I've seen it executed in a way that is beneficial to the therapist.
And from what I've seen well, I've seen newer practices offer really good salaries, but then not be
Mhm.
able to sustain them. Because you
Right.
can't, because 'cause they're
Yeah.
not 'cause of everything you're just talking about, and then I spoke with somebody once, who I ended up not getting hired for this gig, unsurprising because one of the first things she said was, "Yeah, I have salaried staff and they see 30 people a week," and I said, "Well, that is insane." But she's like, "Well, they have to see 30 because that's how I keep the business running," and I'm like, "Well, there's your problem. So I guess I
Yeah.
can't help you." But
Yeah.
it's like I think one of the awesome things about private practice is that you don't have to work 40 hours a week because this is really hard work, and I
Mhm.
could not imagine seeing 40 clients, 30 to 40. I mean, 20 seems
Yeah.
like a lot to me, and I've never seen that much when I was even solo. Um, I don't know the sustainable way to do it, and that's the other piece that I really want to come out of group practice revolution is some more creative ideas for how do we make this work. So I don't know if in your travels you've seen anybody who is doing really creative stuff that you could share with our listeners.
I think the fee for service is a really sustainable model because it offers the therapist to maintain that low caseload every week, as long as the fee is comparable to, like, the work they're doing plus the support they're receiving from the group practice, and I think that being mindful and, like, in touch with, like, additional stipends to add to the therapist, I think has been really cool to see, like, paying for all of their continuing education for the year. Like, I think that's a great addition, and giving them the freedom and the autonomy to choose what that continuing
Mhm.
education looks like and not like having your
Mhm.
hand in what they choose to do professionally. Um, I think like cold hard cash, like bonuses, quarterly payouts, yearly, end of the year payouts. You can never go wrong with like any kind of like profit sharing in that way because
Yep.
I think that the group practice owners have to remember there is no group practice without the therapists that are
Yeah.
seeing the clients. And so being open to a bit more of like the profit sharing, um, I think helps to keep people fulfilled. It keeps their cups filled, and it pays the bills. And like the bills are expensive nowadays. The cost of living increases. I think that we all need to remember 10 years ago in community mental health when we would get like a 1.5% raise, and we need to do better now that we are in charge. Because I remember, cost of living raises are coming and it's like anywhere from like 1 to 3%. And I'm like, what is this? Like, you can't
Right.
even notice a difference in your paychecks. Um, and I hate to see that we, like, lose touch with that now that we're in charge. So just keeping the realistic side of being an employee, in mind when you're making decisions like that.
Mhm. Are you all cash pay or are you in network with insurances?
We're all cash pay. My biller handles the invoices, and then she also submits to out of network for the clients, and so she handles the phone calls,
Mm.
the kickbacks that the clients might have, any issues that
Mhm.
arise, she will handle it.
Mhm.
Money well spent.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that this is the bitch of taking insurance is that there is no cost of living increase. Like Blue Cross Blue Shield will
No.
literally give like a 3-cent raise per session.
Just don't at that point.
I know, and
So
it's
insulting.
so it's so challenging. Like, there are certain markets that just require you to be they don't require you to be a network, but, like, in Chicago, in the Midwest, period, you are expected to be able to use your health insurance for everything. That's just what people
Mhm.
do. But I know in New York or California or Texas or, like, most other places in the US, people recognize I might have to pay out of pocket for this, and I find
Mhm.
what I do find really interesting, especially in the Midwest, is therapists who complain about not getting paid enough, but they won't pay out of pocket for their own therapy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've been paying out of my therapist costs $170 a session, and I've been paying that out of pocket for how many years now? I don't know. And my therapist before
Yeah.
that was out of pocket as well. So,
Yeah.
it's yeah, you got to be able to walk the talk if you want to make that sort of money too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And remembering like how much we care about our providers. Like I love to use the example of like I travel an hour each way to bring my kids to this pediatric dentist that I really like and I really
Mm,
trust. And I continue to make a half a day out of it because I like the services there so much. I don't want to find it like or try to find it in my area. And it's such a good reminder for people to like people will make things work for services that are valuable to them and services that they trust, that they feel seen in, that they feel cared about. And giving therapists like the courage to like walk that walk is like half the battle, because we're so easy to be like, no, I'll give you a sliding scale spot. It's totally fine. Or no, I'll reduce your fee. Like it's totally fine. Like you don't have to pay
right.
my full fee. And it's like, no, you're providing such a valuable service and like you're clients have incredible outcomes. Like if we're looking at the numbers and looking at the treatment plans and, you know, trying to get people to see on both ends, like this is a value and like outcome based service that we're providing. And people are willing to pay for it, to travel for it, to, adjust their lifestyle, to adjust their day, like whatever it might be to receive those services.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And because of the fear, we often devalue ourselves quite a bit. I wanted
Gosh.
to ask you a question that's going to
Yes.
service two things. I want you to tell employees at group practices, like, what are the things that you're like, red flag, you should run sign up for your therapist HQ in order to like do your own thing. And on the other side of this, I just want the practice owners to sort of be hearing, are any of these red flags things that you are doing in your practice?
Yes. If you have a non-compete in your employment contract and it feels like it's enforced, if you're seeing people leave and being intimidated by it, if you're feeling intimidation at all at any level in your practice, by your peers, by your boss, yucky, red flag. If your pay is this is, this can vary depending on insurance-based or private pay. If your group is collecting private pay for a hardy amount and you are seeing pennies of that amount, I'm going to say that's a red flag. Generally, that's a red flag. If you're barely living above poverty level, red flag. Like in a group practice, that should not be happening. And if you're generally feeling like you're advocating for yourself and you're still coming out unsupported, you're still coming out with questions or feeling like you can't talk to your supervisor about things, I think that's a huge red flag as well.
Absolutely. And a thing that I would say about the non compete, because interesting clever, quote unquote, clever thing that I've seen practices do now is to try to institute some sort of like recoupment fee of if you don't stay, X amount of time, then you have to pay me $3,000 or something like that because that's fees for onboarding and everything. And
Oh
the
my
way I look at it, I know. And I tell the people that I consult with, like, if you feel like doing that, then you are bad at hiring because
gosh.
if you're hiring correctly and you're onboarding well, then people
Mhm.
will want to stay. Like,
Right.
I understand because I've been a practice owner who has felt like really unappreciated but at the end of the day, again, you are the one with power as the practice
Mhm.
owner. And so it's up to you to be able to make those good decisions and not push that on to the employee.
Mhm.
So I know practice, like I've had to give some really hard conversations recently to practice
Yeah.
owners who weren't really owning the power that they have because everybody feels so disempowered right now.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's ways that you can get your needs met without exploiting people financially.
Yes. Yes. And like if you're feeling insecure in the work that you're doing, don't take it out on the employees. Like that's your opportunity to do better.
And get honest with yourself that it's you.
Yeah.
Like that's the other piece that I mean, God, that's a whole other that's for conversations with a wounded healer is what we talk about is doing your own fucking work, bitches.
Literally.
Yeah, well, how do people find you if they are ready to jump ship and wanna go into their own practice?
Yeah, they can find me on Instagram and TikTok on the therapist HQ, and then everything is linked in bios from there.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here, Alicia. It's good
Thank
to
you
spend
for
time with
having
you.
me. You too, always.
Yes.